Alrighty everyone, welcome back. It is now June 1st of 2024, and we are just days away from the official release of The Acolyte. Now, we know that there's a lot of things going on with this series in particular, related to the ongoing backlash, and how Season 2 was axed behind the scenes, and how Leslye Headland, we talked about this before, was indeed fired and removed from several projects across the board related to Lucasfilm and Marvel Studios, in the wake of the recent Acolyte backlash, going out of control, even too much for Bob Iger to handle. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new, and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. So, one very interesting aspect about the current situation over at Lucasfilm is that not only are they also getting hit with Bob Iger's cost-cutting measures that's going to result in other firings across the board, very much similar to what happened over at Pixar, just on a smaller scale there, that's going to eventually equal up to thousands of employees all over the Walt Disney Company getting let go due to Bob Iger's, of course, cost-cutting measures and everything related to his ongoing deliberate agenda wreaking havoc, not just at all of the other divisions, but also over at Lucasfilm. Now, focusing on Leslye Headland, we know that she has been going on endless rants about the Star Wars fandom, about so-called toxic males, or the toxic male demographic, and even Kathleen Kennedy touched on this, how she's very unpleased about the fact that they are basically in this situation where they claim that of course exists. They believe that it's all because of the toxic males that are causing problems with Star Wars, when in reality it's all about Kathleen Kennedy's agenda, right? I mean, I don't know if you guys saw this, but just recently Charlie Barnett, the main actor of the actual series, said that Anakin destroyed the Death Star. He has no idea what he's talking about. But moving on, with both Marvel Studios and Lucasfilm still considered the two most complex divisions right now at the Walt Disney Company, due to Bob Iger's cost-cutting measures that impacted those two, one major development now involves more to do with director and showrunner of The Acolyte, Leslye Headland, and what she had to deliver, which all comes in the wake of her getting fired and removed from several projects. Headland stated the following: "Look, I know I'm a grown woman, and especially one who properly represents the LGBTQ community, and it's why I found this series to be so important. My main priority with this series was to really gather a great cast and crew that would be affiliated with this community. I just loved Amandla and Charlie and how they were able to properly represent different communities in The Acolyte. But when you are dealing with a fandom that is not only unfair but childish, and how they are very vocal about how they are opposed to communities like the ones I listed days ago that will be inserted in this series, it just shows a huge sign of ignorance within this community, and I think anyone who is opposed to communities like this just aren't fans at all of Star Wars. That's just a fact. To say that we, as in myself and many other members at Lucasfilm, follow any level of an agenda is not only irresponsible, but it is also very damaging to both the brand and the community for those that are trying to enjoy the series. Look, I really find it disturbing when you have fans that they say they want something different and we give it, and they backtrack on that, on what they just said. I saw this happen with Rian Johnson in his Star Wars film, and it's what really inspired me to do something different, but not surprised of how the fans react in the end. Something that would represent women properly and the many different backgrounds they come from was my main goal. For years, Star Wars fans have looked up to men, and I think that's why we get such a toxic response when we try to make the women the heroes. It's exhausting having, of course, all of that coming from the fans, and hearing how this is an agenda. I think I would like to ask, how is bringing women into Star Wars an agenda? I will never understand the logic from some of the so-called fans that, like I said before, just pose to be fans to cause trouble. We live in an era where fans find entertainment and praise the failure of a franchise or a film or just a TV show, and it's the most childish behavior I have seen in my life. It makes me wonder why they are even watching Star Wars at all. Both I and Kathleen Kennedy really made this our mission to make up for lost time for female heroes. That was the major mistake George had made with his films. They were all male dominant, and it really just missed a mark completely. It was always my own critique of George. Even with the prequels, the women were sidelined. So guys, I gotta stop right here for 1 minute before I move on. So, she's saying even with the prequels, the women were sidelined. Is she forgetting Padme Amidala? The main character practically of all 3 movies that was so integral to the plot, so important to the character of Anakin Skywalker and his downfall to becoming Darth Vader? How can you forget about that? And how can you also forget about Leia Organa in the original trilogy, who played a massive part in the original 3 movies? So I don't know why they always go down this rabbit hole of saying this and that and how women were non-existent or they were sidelined or not as important in those movies. I think not. I think that we have had many examples in pop culture of powerful female heroes that work organically. They came naturally in the script writing process. When you have a show like The Acolyte and you get all of these different agendas in play above proper storytelling, proper character development, that's when fans have a problem. That's when someone like myself, I have a problem. Even though I'm not really a fan of Star Wars anymore, based on what Disney has been doing over the years, it really has created a feeling of being very apathetic. A lot of people feel the same way. A lot of people are just done. They are leaving in droves when it comes to everything Lucasfilm. So moving onwards here, on top of everything here, she goes on to conclude, The Acolyte is about making them the ultimate hero, she's talking about women, in this one. And if men don't like that, then I think they just need to deal with it and take it for what it is. I will admit I am no longer involved in certain projects that I was initially very passionate about, but I really am, I'm not allowed to go into that just yet, but I think studios are also very irresponsible, too, when they claim to support all these communities, and the minute they get pushback from a minority, especially a loud minority, they just question themselves like, how do we dial this back a bit to please the audience? So, I mean, there you go again. I mean, this is coming in the wake of how Kathleen Kennedy really blamed, quote-unquote, the toxic male, community or the toxic male demographic and how it's all male-dominant and how women get the bad rap and women have to deal with the toxicity. It just goes to show you that Kathleen Kennedy is no better than Leslye Headland. I mean, they're both equally worse. Actually, you know what? I always like to say this. I think that Leslye Headland was always more, extreme when it comes to her overall beliefs with the different agendas being shoehorned in Star Wars, and that's why she was a direct DEI hire by Kathleen and by Bob. But overall, I would love, to really hear what you all have to say about that, because this is where things get even more severe, is that, like I said on Twitter today, I don't know if you guys caught it, but one of the main actors, I talked about this briefly in the beginning of this video, Charlie Barnett, this is living proof of what Leslye Headland said, and it only cements it further, that she intentionally hired actors, actresses, and crew members that knew nothing about Star Wars. He literally said Anakin destroyed the Death Star in a recent interview. That is as mind-boggling and terribly bad as far as PR goes. But overall, I would love to hear what you all have to say about this below in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.